Welcome to Tabletop Tommies. This is the second video in what is going to be a bit of a vlog, building a whole new army from the ground up. This video will also be a bit of a review of the Soviet Winter Infantry box set from Warlord Games, as these are the first models I'm building for my new force. Building Soviets, I'll need a lot of infantry to throw to their unnecessary deaths, and luckily this box comes with 40 fellas and enough bases for them, which I will immediately put in the bits box because I'll be using the bases I made in the first video. The first thing that impresses me about the box is the separate weapon sprue that comes with enough weapons to kit out the whole force and still have enough left over for future captured weapon conversions for my Hungarians or Germans. In the box you get 3 weapon sprues, and on each weapon sprue you get 10 rifles, a rifle with a scope, 6 SMGs, a Panzerfaust and an anti-tank rifle, a light machine gun, 3 pistols, and a plethora of accessories I won't ever use because they add more complexity to the painting. The options are brilliant, and because of the weapon sprue, you can build an entire force from this one box set, as you have enough options here to make AT rifle teams, snipers, and thematic officers or commissars with pistols, which you probably won't do because you could have a free SMG. Interestingly, there aren't enough rifles for every man, which is very Soviet, and in total there's only 18 SMGs on the weapon sprues. So if you're building an elite Soviet force where every man has an SMG, you might not have enough. However, you do get an extra slung SMG on each of what I'd call the body sprues, and so you actually have 23 in total. If you don't plan to run unarmed men, or if you need more SMGs, you can buy additional weapon sprues from Warlord, which they sell for £5.50 in the UK. This is neither cheap nor expensive really, in my opinion, but it is objectively a lot cheaper than buying another 40 men just for additional weapons. So shout out to Warlord for having that as an option. On to the main event, you get 5 of the body sprues, each of which has 3 of the pyjama boys on it in their quilted nighttime attire, and 5 greatcoat fellas, but one of the greatcoat fellas is ironically having a lie down. You also get 4 heads and helmets, 7 Ushanka heads, the furry ear hats, a peaked cap for your NCOs and officers, and a side cap head. So across the 5 body sprues you get a total of 20 helmets, 35 Ushanka, 5 peak caps and 5 side caps. My preference to build from this sprue is infantry in greatcoats and helmets, so I'll use the pyjama bodies and Ushanka heads to make my free inexperienced squad, as they'll either be thrown to their deaths very early in the game or hidden away on an objective for the entire game. Either way, my opponent won't have to spend very long looking at them. Also, I'm not a big fan of the rifles with fixed bayonets on my models, as I tend to break them off by mistake, so the free squad can have all the bayonets for the exact same reason, and I'll save the 12 rifles without bayonets for the units that I care about. You also do get a fun Molotov and pointy finger arm on each sprue, which is cool, and you get a load of accessories like shovels and ammo pouches that I'll probably not use on mine unless I'm ever making a diorama. So in total on the 5 body sprues you get 15 pyjama boys, 20 greatcoat infantry on their feet, 5 of which are crouching, and 5 prone greatcoat models. I did buy a second box of the Winter Soviets because as it's Soviets I'll need the bodies, but I'm going to start by building my free and experienced squad and all the not lying down greatcoat models, which will be the starting point for the rest of my force. I start by cutting out all the bodies I need and scrape a knife down all the mould lines to remove them. The mould lines on these weren't actually that bad, but definitely would be noticeable, especially if you use ink or wash as the final paint step. I like to do all the bodies first, so I can use different arms wherever possible on the duplicate models for a bit of variety. Avoiding identical poses is one of the big reasons I prefer plastics over metals. I usually don't follow the instructions for infantry, but here I did because I was trying to do a bit of a production line, and so I cut out all the arms I need in pairs ready to be glued on, as well as the rifles, before removing the mould lines from them all at once. Now, a controversial opinion, I actually prefer the arms without the attached weapons, as it allows for more variety of weapons options and poses. Feel free to tell me in the comments how fiddly it is, but I personally found it not that fiddly if I first glued the arms on. Then, before the glue's hardened, I put a dab of glue on each hand and slot the rifle into place. Equally though, I do have memories of making an absolute mess of this with other hands-free Warlord kits, which is a big part of the reason why I started by building the inexperienced squad that nobody cares about first. All that said, I think the Winter Soviet box may be my new favourite Winter Infantry plastic box from Warlord, because there's a big variety of models and weapons in the box. The Winter German set was my previous favourite, but the weapons moulded to the hand seriously limited the number of poses, especially because I built an elite recce platoon with lots of SMGs, and so I ended up with duplicates of the same SMG pose. But jumping back to the Soviets, that's the inexperienced squad built. I used the side cap head to denote the NCO. I actually quite like the models, even though I dislike the uniform itself. It is nice though to have a different uniform for my inexperienced squad, because it lets me and my opponent quickly identify which squad is the inexperienced squad, as it's the only inexperienced infantry squad I'll be running in the army. The poses and detail on the models are both quite good, better than what is required for my quality of painting when it comes to painting a full army. Off camera, I built the greatcoat models in much the same way, with my planned army list to hand, to make sure I made the right amount of each weapons and number of NCOs, although at this stage in an army build it's quite hard to make too many of one thing, but I don't doubt my ability to do it anyway. So here's all the infantry I've built so far, all from the one Winter Soviet Infantry box set. The only models I didn't use were 3 Pajama Boys and the lying down greatcoat models. My overall view is that this is a really good plastic infantry kit, and the only criticism I have is that you don't get enough helmets. But I do recognise that that's personal preference, because I prefer helmets over any other type of headgear for infantry. Please subscribe if you want to see reviews of other Soviet models and /or want to see the rest of the 1250 points Soviet Horde take form. And if you're looking for some non-Soviet bolt action content, please check out the podcast, where most of the episodes are about everything bolt action except building Soviets.